Hi guys, welcome to the Overdrive Digital Show. A special hello to Zabi, Deepam, Yashpal. Your sense of humor is noted, and Suhas. Hope you're still around. You joined us way too early. We start the show every week at 6 p.m. So guys, whether you're joining us from Facebook, Twitter or YouTube, welcome. And do show us some love by hitting the like button wherever you're joining from. On to our first story then. It's been almost 4 years since Audi gave the S5 Sportback a fresh look, and this new model now comes with new tech as well. What's more is we're here to tell you whether that 3-liter V6 twin-turbo engine will put a big smile on your face.
Looking fast standing still. It's a phrase so overused that I can't help roll my eyes every time I hear it. And yet looking at this Audi S5 Sportback, I can't help but think, yes indeed, it does look really fast standing still. So the S5 Sportback has been around in the same shape for many years now. However, cosmetic changes for 2021 have really livened things up. So the showstopper is this big grille in front. So now it has this black honeycomb pattern with silver inserts. The horizontal slats are gone now. You also get these brushed aluminum finish blade shrouds around the air vents. And in terms of the headlamp cluster, you get a matrix LED adaptive cluster with dynamic turn signals, you know, the kinds that Audi pioneered. What you can also get as an option is an all black package. So you'll get these chrome elements deleted and these 4 aluminum elements deleted. So that'll be an all black affair. Fastback style never gets old, but when you view the Sportback from the profile, the real heroes are these 19-inch rims. So now they replace the 18-inch rims from the previous generation. What they also get is really fat rubber, by the way. So it's running 255 section low profile tires. So the sidewall height is just 35 mm. I really like the profile, and there's a strong shoulder line that comes right across from the front fender to the rear, and it blends the shape really beautifully. And like I said, this fastback shape really doesn't get old. Now in its brochure, Audi says, and I quote, "A large rear spoiler accentuates the car's aesthetics even further." So you come around looking for a large spoiler, and what you find is this, a little lip spoiler. But for what it's worth, it balances the car's look really well. And that combined with the sleek LED tail lamps, the quad pipes, the diffuser, it all comes together to make this one of the best looking behinds in the business. So the inside suddenly doesn't feel very turbo. In fact, it feels very understated compared to what you see outside. It's almost like the car you got inside is not the same one that is there on the outside. And while this horizontal design has now become a little dated, it is a generation old, but the quality is of a very high order. So you get this aluminum inlay in the dashboard as well as the door pads, which can be optioned in black as well. But I think this scheme works just fine. Now in terms of upholstery, the seats get a mixed bag of Alcantara and leather, and the door pads also get the Alcantara upholstery. The steering is the flat bottom type. It's wrapped really nicely, feels very good to hold, and it gets all the buttons and functions that you expect from a steering in an expensive car. Now the big highlight on the inside is this 10.1-inch multimedia interface display. So Audi says it's 10 times faster. It feels pretty quick to me. It's crisp, it's clear, it gets Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, navigation, which can be routed to the Audi virtual cockpit as well. Overall, it's really nice to use. It pairs fast. Nothing to complain. In fact, it also replaces that rotary knob now, so you don't get the rotary knob anymore. You just get a touch interface. The good thing is that the climate control switches and the fan speed, etc., all remain physical buttons, and that's not a touch screen, so that's a good thing. You don't have to take your eyes off the road while setting temperature, etc. In terms of driver comfort, you get 4 levels of adjustability just for the lumbar support. While you get a memory function for the seat as well, my only gripe with it is that the function is only for the driver side and not for the passenger side. But clearly in terms of driver comfort, the car is designed to carry you over long distances quite comfortably. So talking about the space at the rear, I've adjusted the driver's seat to my driving position. So for context, I'm 6 feet 2 inches tall, but I have ample of knee room. There's plenty of space to tuck my feet under the chair as well. In terms of thigh support, if you're tall, there might not be adequate thigh support. But if you're not very tall, it's okay. But the seat recline angle is actually pretty good. My only real point of concern though is the head space because of the fastback shape and the low roofline. So for someone as tall as me, now my hair is brushing the headliner a little bit, and that could be a hairy moment if you go over a bad bump or something. What I really also like is the armrest here. So it's pretty wide, it's easy to comfortably keep your elbow rested, and the cup holders open quite snazzily. Overall, the seat is comfortable, and if you're not as tall as me, you shouldn't have any problem being here. So this unit is making 354 HP of max power between 5400 to 6400 RPM and 500 Newton meters of torque from 1370 to 4500 RPM. It comes paired with a familiar 8-speed torque converter gearbox. On punching the starter, the engine comes alive with a mild roar before settling into an idle. You get 5 driving modes: auto, efficiency, comfort, dynamic and individual, which can be accessed either through the touchscreen or physical buttons placed below the HVAC controls. Efficiency mode keeps things quite sedate. The throttle response and the gearbox are quite lazy. In fact, when you pin the accelerator, it stays in the same gear, allowing the torque wave to maintain speeds. In comfort mode though, the gearbox is more sensitive to changes in throttle position, so at part throttle it upshifts at around 2000 RPM and downshifts follow a moment's hesitation when you pin the throttle. The ability of this car only really comes through in dynamic mode. The exhaust note gets louder, the throttle is more sensitive to inputs, and the gearbox holds the gears much longer. Even the suspension feels more taut despite this particular car not being specced out with the optional adaptive dampers. In dynamic mode, the steering also feels more alive. But while it does get direct and placing the car accurately is not a problem, the steering is lacking in feel, so you don't really know what the tires are up to. And that dulls the experience a little bit. One of the key highlights of the driving experience is the engine note from the V6. It has this nice throaty growl, and while it never gets really loud, it's enough to keep you entertained. Now in terms of power delivery, you do feel a turbo kick lower down the rev range at around 1400 RPM, but beyond that it's linear right to the red line, and just when it upshifts, you hear a little grunt from the engine. Now transmission works really well as well, so it's a 8-speed Tiptronic unit, it's a torque converter, but the gear shifts are seamless, you don't get any of that head nod, it's very smooth, and downshifts in dynamic mode are also really quick. The handling character of the car is defined mainly by the quattro all-wheel drive. So it gets a self-locking differential that splits the torque in a 40/60 ratio between the front and the rear wheels. So the handling of the car is always a little rear biased. So here I am approaching a corner at speed, on the brakes, turn in, and the moment I see an exit, I step on it and the rear tucks in really nicely. So it's really well balanced. In fact, a big thumbs up for the Bridgestone Potenza tires as well. They offer enormous amounts of grip. In fact, to make the car lose traction, you have to work very, very hard. I have yet to hear a squeal or a chirrup from the tires, except maybe once or twice, but like I said, you have to work really hard to do that. Overall, it's a car that is very easy to drive fast. It doesn't scare you at all. In dynamic mode, it feels quite stiff. So while the ride gets busy on a poor surface, it's never really uncomfortable. Also, the ground clearance hasn't been altered for India, so going over sharp speed breakers requires some careful attention. But as a result, body roll is negligible and it makes the S5 feel like a tight unit that wraps nicely around the driver. In comfort mode, the ride gets more plush, and in town, this is the best mode to leave the car in. So the S5 Sportback is a very friendly and yet very capable car. In fact, it's a perfect option for someone looking for an approachable vehicle to upgrade from a regular sedan to a slightly more performance-oriented sedan. So there has to be a downside, right? And there is one downside, and it comes in the form of the competition. So the BMW M340i has been recently launched as well, and that undercuts this on price by a huge margin, and we'll come to that. And while I haven't driven the M340i, so I'm not in a position to do an actual comparison, but just looking at the spec sheet and the prices, there is a lot to be said there. So, for example, dimensionally, that is a little narrow in terms of width, but it has a longer wheelbase. Also, that makes more power. So, this is making around 354 HP. That makes around 380 HP plus. And plus, that gets a rear wheel bias. And in terms of prices, this one comes in at around 92 lakh rupees on road Delhi, while that undercuts this by almost 17 to 18 lakhs where the on-road price is concerned. So that clearly seems like better value. However, objectively, the S5 Sportback makes a very good case for itself. So if you're looking for an upgrade, this might be a good option.
Well, guys, I hope you all are ready with your questions so that we can, get Rohit and Bert to answer all of them. And we'll also be keeping track of the top 5 questions so that you can be eligible to get your free copy, the OVERDRIVE digital magazine copy. Can I say Bert and Rohit on the show, please?
Hello, Sohini. Hello, Bert.
Good evening. Hi, Sohini. Hi, Rohit.
Hi guys, hope everybody is safe. Rohit, you're joining us from Pune and the cases have been rising. Hope everything's good there.
Absolutely. I mean, it's left me quite paranoid. In fact, we traveled earlier this week for the Trident as well. So wasn't the most pleasant experience, traveling, taking many flights, changing flights, airports, because it's still a nightmare out there. I mean, it's a year now since we've been introduced to the new normal and to what lockdowns are and the precautions that we all need to take. But unfortunately, nothing's changed. It's gotten worse. So it is a bit of a scary incident. But in a way, it was a good thing that it was a motorcycle ride. There was no, exchanging of vehicles. There was no cabin space to be shared with anyone. We were to ourselves in our helmet, in our gear. So in a way, that was a good way to do it. The ride was pretty exciting. I mean, if anyone hasn't really ridden in Uttarakhand, this was my first time. It was amazing. So yeah, big shout out to the Triumph team for organizing the kind of ride that they did, because it was a 200-kilometer long loop that they did, and all mountain roads. So brilliant road. How the bike fared there is something that we'll tell you very soon. 19th of April is when our review goes live at 10 a.m. So definitely make sure that you tune in and watch that review or read it on the overdrive.in website.
Okay, you've already answered Apur's questions. He was asking whether it was under embargo and when is it coming out.
Yes, so it is.
So we'll start off with the questions. The first one comes in from Yash. He wants to know what are your views on the 7-seater Sonnet, which is launched in Indonesia. Should Kia launch it in India?
Well, Bert's already nodding his head, and I don't think it should come here either. In fact, I'm waiting to see what the third row of the Creta, the new Alcazar, is like. The 7-seater Creta. I'm really waiting to see what that is like. So Sonnet with a sub 4 meter space, no. I mean, I don't think that's a great idea. Of course, we have the Triber, which has shown us that even in a compact size, you can get a lot of space. But Sonnet 7-seater, I'm not sure if they should, really bring it to India. Also, the whole idea of the Sonnet is, that nice premium feel, a roomy cabin. I think all of that could be compromised a little bit with the third row of seating. So I'm not very sure. What are your thoughts, Bert?
Well, I see it works as an idea. The 7-seater option definitely works. Keep in mind, we already have the Ertiga in India, which is an MPV, and that's a 7-seater. Okay, so it's got 3 rows of seats. So the concept by itself works. It can reasonably give you enough of space, because your intended target is not to fit 7 large adults into something of this sort. Your target is probably for a family with a slightly larger extended family. Family that's got mom and dad, grandparents, and kids, of course. So that last row essentially becomes fairly useful to place kids in. So in that sense, 7-seater Sonnet is not, I wouldn't dismiss the idea. I can see the merits, I can see the value, and I can definitely see a lot of people going in for that, because there are larger families. Indian society is such that we do have large families. We live with our parents for a very long time, and it's not easy to have 2 vehicles going out to the same place. You're going for a wedding, or you're going for some other function somewhere, or you just the whole time you're going to watch a movie somewhere. I mean, you don't really want to have 2 vehicles going there and one would easily suffice, and lower down the price order, and the same issue with the size as well. Certain cities you just can't have a large 7-seater, a large MPV. It makes sense to have a smaller compact SUV or an MPV that offers you that much of a seating configuration. So I definitely see the value, but like you rightly said, also the Sonnet has been positioned as a premium vehicle, and there is going to be a bit of a compromise in that premiumness in terms of space, and the luxury that space has to offer you. So yeah, it's not the best of ideas, but it's not a bad idea either. So let's see how Kia India approaches this. Whether they intend bringing the Sonnet 7-seater to India or not, well, that's entirely up.
All right. But here's an interesting question. Which is the best automatic gearbox for sports cars?
Okay, so there isn't a best gearbox in that sense. These days, we've got both torque converters and we've got dual clutch transmissions. And keep in mind, the standard flag bearer for all sorts of sports cars for a very, very long time to come was always the standard torque converter. Even today, there are lots of sport cars that still use a standard torque converter and not a dual clutch transmission. No, dual clutch transmissions also, they're not entirely new. While they've come into production recently over the last decade or so, they've become far more popular. But the earliest example I can remember of a dual clutch transmission was Porsche, who used it in racing back in the 1970s. So it's got a fairly long history in that sense. It's just they've never been able to bring it into production car because the electronics associated with it could not be made compact enough to make a package that could accommodate an automatic transmission, that the dual clutch transmission and the associated electronics. So that's why it didn't come into production cars till very recently. But for all purposes, a standard torque converter works just as good. Now, is a DCT quicker? Yes, you definitely get faster shift times out of the dual clutch transmission. It's a predictive kind of a transmission gearbox. So, it's always far more intuitive and much quicker to use a DCT rather than a standard torque converter. But there are several cases where a standard torque converter is still in use. So, which is the best automatic? I would say a DCT is the better automatic in that sense. AMPs definitely out of the question. AMPs are sluggish, are slow. I don't like AMPs personally, but they don't really make a lot of sense for any sports cars as well. But I think as future cars will see more of dual clutch transmissions rather than the standard torque converters.
All right, Rohit, there's a question for you. Aniket wants to know any news on the Yamaha XSR155. Hearing rumors about it since a very long time.
No, in fact, even I don't have any news on this particular motorcycle, but we are hearing that there is the FZX or FZ Cross that is, expected very soon. In fact, some of the specs have already leaked online. There were a few spy shots as well that cropped up online a couple of weeks back of a motorcycle that had a round headlamp and a bit of a scrambler kind of a look. And that is where I think that it's going to be the FZ or the FZ Cross that is going to come up. And I'm not sure if it's going to have the same engine as the FZ16, or is it the 250cc engine or the 249cc engine rather from the FZ25. I'm not yet very sure. Like I said, the specs have leaked online, but pardon me, I have not seen the specs that have come online rather. But yeah, I think it's that motorcycle that should come out very soon. It's going to have that slightly retro styling with that Scrambler inspired look, something like what we've also seen on the CV350 RS. I'm guessing it's going to be something like that this motorcycle is going to be all about. So once we have it officially revealed, we'll know what this motorcycle is going to be. But like I said on last week's show, Yamaha has said that they are not really looking at expanding the portfolio in terms of new specifications or new engines. They're looking at expanding the current portfolio, which essentially has the engines that power the FZ16, the R15, the FZ25, and of course the scooter range. So they are going to play within those brackets at the moment. And this motorcycle, whether it's a 160 or a 250, it's going to fit into that scheme of things rather nicely. So once we have it, we should be able to discuss it further.
In fact, Rohit, since we're talking about the Yamaha, Zabi also wants to know whether you can tell us something about the 2021 model of the MT-09. Is there a launch timeline that you can tell us about?
Well, I'm not sure if the MT-09 is going to be here. Like I said, again, they are at the moment with this whole COVID happening, they're concentrating purely on their smaller motorcycles. They're calling it the premium range, of course, but they're not really looking very actively at the entire CBU range. A lot of dealerships also, remember, have shut down for Yamaha during the pandemic. These were smaller dealerships, of course, but they have sort of had a setback there as well. So at the moment, they're looking at stabilizing their local business, making sure that the scooters, the premium motorcycles up to 250cc category are back to where the kind of business that they were doing. Of course, they've shown some positive growth compared to last year. Some models have shown a positive growth compared to a couple of years ago as well. But that's the business that they want to stabilize at the moment. It's not the bigger motorcycles that they are really concentrating on. So I'm not sure if the MT-09 will really make a comeback, but I hope it does. That motorcycle was quite a hooligan to ride, and it was received quite well. Unfortunately, not received quite well by the market. The media loved it. People who bought it loved it, but not many people bought it. So I'm not very sure if the MT-09 is going to make a comeback.
All right. But here's a question from Surjashish. He wants to know, what do you think of the next generation, next design feature in cars? We had the headlights fall to the bumpers and TFT screens growing in size. The Tata Safari concept was interesting.
One I'm definitely thinking is that you're going to have a lot more of the TFT screens coming in, which will perform more functions than ever before. But I think one of the critical design features that will come about in cars in the future, and especially SUVs, is the emergence of convertible SUVs. Because what's the point of taking your SUV out into the wilderness? You're going to go on a nice long road trip and, not be able to take the roof off. We've had some instances, JLR Land Rover essentially showed us a convertible Evoque, if I'm not mistaken, was that? Yeah. And, it was a fantastic idea. And I think that is something that a lot of manufacturers are mulling over and identifying if they can do something similar on those lines, because it just makes a lot of sense, because it works phenomenally well for an off-road vehicle, something that you can go hit some trails somewhere, get to some fantastic locations, then just take the roof off and, just drive to that region. It's a brilliant idea. I think that's one of the key design highlights that will come about in the future. The other one, as I mentioned, is the TFT screens. Those are going to get larger and larger. They're going to see one of the news pieces coming up just now in a short while on the Mercedes EQS. They recently launched, they've just introduced this luxury saloon, electric luxury saloon just today. And you'll see how it's got this single panel dashboard, which is entirely touchscreen. And it's the largest thing that's ever been made for a car of this sort. And I think it's quite amazing. So that's going to be one of the technology bits that's coming up in the future. The other technology bits or other design highlights that are going to come is, and which I've seen at certain motor shows, CES, and at Geneva and Frankfurt motor shows as well, is how manufacturers are exploring the idea of trying to make various other screens inside the car, various other glass surfaces inside the car, converting them into touchscreens that can do a lot more than just what your touchscreen on the dashboard can do, because this would apply to passengers sitting in the rear seat, for instance. Can I convert my windows into touchscreens where I can, either navigate social media or watch films or do something, connect with people in various ways. So that's one interesting design aspect that we're seeing. We also is the emergence as cars go more into autonomous drivability. Another very interesting design feature that we will see is the seats that can swivel and convert your cabin into a lounge area where front passengers will be able to turn their seats around and effectively have a conversation with the passenger sitting at the rear while the car is driving itself. So there's a whole world of possibilities coming up. Some very interesting stuff in terms of design itself that's coming up. But let's see. I mean, it's a good time to be at, this is the era of cutting edge technology. We're seeing some very interesting stuff coming up, and it's only getting better from here on.
I think a couple of things that I would like to add to what Both just said. I think the wing mirrors could go away in the coming decade. I think those are being replaced with
quite a few cars. It's already going away.
Quite a few cars, exactly. The Audi e-tron showed it to us initially, and I think a lot more vehicles going forward, especially when aerodynamic efficiency is becoming all the more important now with electric vehicles to maximize that range. The wing mirrors could, go away for good for most vehicles. Though there are some legislations around the globe which are still not allowing this change. So even the e-tron, for that matter, does get conventional wing mirrors in some of the countries. And the other bit that I think that a lot of manufacturers will explore very soon is animated tail lights. This was a concept that Audi showed us in the past as well. OLEDs are becoming common, so you will see a lot more animations. The first step towards it is something that we just saw with Audi, even in the S5 review right now, is the dynamic turn indicators. So that is the first step towards the animation. We've seen it in the S63 Coupe as well, where the tail lights, they glow in a certain format and give you that welcome animation. And I think this going forward is going to be another interesting area that a lot of manufacturers are going to explore.
Already have a question?
One question from Electron Vlogs, who's not spamming us, even though he's put a query up about 50 times now. Okay, not 50 times, I'm exaggerating maybe, but why should I remove the sunroof from the i10? Electron Vlogs, the only reason I can think about is that it's a question of cost, and the i10 is one of the most affordable cars that Hyundai offers in the market. And adding a sunroof to this just makes it more expensive in both in terms of development cost, because they need to strengthen the roof, and of course, as a cost that is then passed on to the customer, makes it too expensive for them to to buy that vehicle. So I guess that's one of the reasons why it's just been avoided entirely, and nothing else. All right, let's. There's a couple of other questions.
One sec. Yours, Yashpal, really trying to win a subscription. Though the question says he's currently driving the Jazz and is thinking of going for the Honda City, but somehow it's a car which feels okay. I think he's asked 2-3 more questions somewhere below. In terms of features, should he stretch and buy the Hector or Harrier or SUVs like the Seltos or Creta? That makes more sense.
Okay, he wants to go everything from the Jazz to the City to the Hector to the Creta. Okay, I'm not sure what your budget is, Yashpal. You need to put that up if possible. But I can only, at this point in time, I can only see your second query, which is in terms of features, should I stretch and buy Hector or Harrier or SUVs like Seltos or Creta make more sense? And I would any days recommend the Seltos or the Creta over the Harrier or the Hector in terms of reliability, quality, longevity that the vehicle will offer you. And of course, the driving feel, which they feel far more car-like than the Harrier or the Hector. Now, that's not to say that the Hector does not have a purpose. One of the biggest advantages that the Hector and the Harrier have is the amount of space that they offer inside that cabin. It is enormous, it is huge, and they're also comfortable cars. But that space is something that really ups the game for those two SUVs. Apart from that, the Hector has got this fancy touchscreen, but I don't think it was a very useful bit of tech on that. There are certain functions that you can perform well, but there are others that the touchscreen is an impediment for. So, in that sense, look for what you're getting as the best deal in this case. I would recommend going for an SUV at this point in time, simply because you're getting a lot more value. Either the Seltos or the Creta are better options, better and nicer SUVs to drive overall. The Harrier is a little ponderish, a little sluggish, but it's got great ride quality, I'll give it that, and it's got a great amount of space. And if that is your priority, or rather if that's something that you prioritize over all other features, then either the Hector or the Harrier is what you should go for.
But here's a question from Rahul. He wants to know that given that the Taigun will launch later this year, even if the T-Roc is CBU, does it justify the premium price over the Taigun, considering we will get the same engine, transmission options and similar features?
Well, the Taigun is anyways is a vehicle that's positioned far below, and it's going to be a made in India vehicle. So the pricing for the Taigun can be offset in various ways. So it'll be far cheaper. Now the T-Roc is always going to be a CBU. Volkswagen intends or rather would try to offer that as a made in India product, but I don't think they will take anything more than the CKD route at best. Now, does the T-Roc justify the premium over the Taigun? Well, it's not Volkswagen necessarily wanting to justify the pricing. It's also the way the tax structure is framed, and that is essentially what is preventing the import duties at this point in time, is what prevents most manufacturers from offering some more interesting cars at better prices. But having said that, no, as well as price positioning is, I don't entirely think that the T-Roc is justified in that sense. But there's not much that we can do at this point that any manufacturer can do with the T-Roc for that matter. As long as it's an import, you have to pay those taxes, and that's why it is expensive. Others would be fairly competitive in terms of pricing. Perhaps Volkswagen has just given you the T-Roc and it's never considered a Taigun at all for that matter.
All right, but here's one more question. Sunil wants to know, is the Fortuner relevant after the 78,000 price hike, or a Gloucester or the Endeavour makes a better buy?
Well, the Fortuner is always relevant. Keep in mind, what you're buying into is not just a vehicle with any Toyota for that matter. You're also buying into the badge, the reliability and the quality that goes along with it. And of course, the tremendous resale value that you get with any of their products, except barring the EQS sedan. Let's forget about that. But where the SUV is concerned, the Fortuner is being one of the flagship SUVs in the country today for anybody and everybody who likes to have a very diverse lifestyle for that matter. It's a very, very capable SUV. It's a very reliable SUV. It's easy on maintenance. Cost of ownership is extremely low. And you get good resale out of it. So that's what makes it very endearing to a lot of people. Now, having said that, the Endeavour is a little more expensive to own. Ownership costs are higher. But it's got phenomenal handling, ride quality. The dynamics are brilliant. It's something that you would really enjoy driving. I don't enjoy driving the Fortuner a lot, but I definitely know that it makes a lot more economical sense. But the Endeavour is something that I really enjoy driving. But it doesn't, it really doesn't. It's a very, it is expensive to own for that matter. Now, the Gloucester, on the other hand, I thought was just a little ponderous, a little too large, a little slow in that sense, and does not have the agility of the Endeavour. Nor does it have the value base that you've got with the Fortuner. Where the Gloucester finds itself is in being an extremely comfortable SUV. I'll give it that. It's got a phenomenal amount of comfort inside. The seats are luxurious. There's enormous amounts of space inside that cabin. You've got some fantastic features. It's a decent engine and it's a decent transmission as well. Highway cruising is absolutely brilliant. In urban areas, the crowded urban areas, like I said, the size also makes a difference, and it feels a little ponderous in urban areas. But for all other purposes, also it's a fantastic. It's a nice car. It's a nice SUV for that matter. But would I spend the 78,000 on the new Fortuner, or the additional 78,000 on the Fortuner? It's a tough one. I will now actually go out and see where I can get a deal. What kind of a deal I could get from any of the dealerships, try and offset that cost as far as possible, and see how to strike a bargain basement deal for either one of these SUVs for that matter.
Yeah, but he was chatting with us and saying that the Fortuner now costs 44 lakh rupees for the top spec, and its competition is lower in price and better value. So I don't plan to keep the vehicle for a long period of time.
Yeah, well, you could do that. But and you will get decent resale value for a Fortuner, even if you plan on keeping it for a short period of time and selling it off. The lower the mileage, the better the resale value that you will get on a Fortuner. Toyotas, at the end of the day, command a very, very high resale value. So you will get great pricing for that even after you've finished using your vehicle and popping it off in the market. So that is taken care of. Value, yes, I kind of see the value. 78,000, yes, those prices were invariably going to go up at some point in time. There are higher input costs involved, and this keeps increasing year on year. We can't do much about that. Does it justify? Is it justifiable? Not really. You could definitely look for a better. You could get a better deal in the Endeavour, but you definitely won't get better resale value at the time of sale. The Endeavour will not come on the same pricing that the Fortuner will.
Rohit, can we expect any new engine configuration from Maruti Suzuki apart from the 1.2 and 1.5 liter engines?
Well, at the moment, no. These are the engines that they are betting big on, of course, with CNG variants as well. The diesel 1.5 is likely to make a comeback on some of the models, especially the Ertiga, the XL6, maybe the CS again. So the engine could make a comeback because apparently there is a big demand at the Maruti Suzuki dealerships for a diesel variant for these three models. So we hear that they are considering bringing back these engines. So we are still not sure if that will happen. But yeah, as of now, it is the 1.2 and the 1.5 petrols that they will be betting big on for most of their premium range.
All right, guys, keep asking those questions. We'll come back to it in a moment. In fact, Simran Rastogi is also answering them just in case we don't manage to answer all of them live on the show. But let's toss this to you for the Mercedes EQS story.
Yeah, so the Mercedes-Benz EQS, Mercedes-Benz's flagship electric luxury saloon, phenomenal car. The first time they've got into this space, And looking at the images, I mean, yes, it definitely is a head turner. Looks interesting. There's another option which has got the two-tone shade with the light grey underside lower panels and the black hood and the roofline. Quite interesting looking car in that sense, though I do think it also looks a little bulbous from certain angles. There are hints of the Honda Civic in there. Correct me anyone if I'm wrong, but I definitely saw some hints of the Honda Civic, the previous generation Honda Civic in that car. But on the exteriors, yeah, this is what the new. I mean, look at that profile. I mean, it definitely looks like a Honda Civic over there, just a larger one. But this is the epitome of electric luxury at this point in time. Something that is really, really unique, and something that will be coming down to India also very, very soon. I think within the next year or so, Mercedes-Benz will be introducing the EQS in India. Now, the EQS is one of 8 cars in the entire EQ lineup. We've already got the EQC here in India. The EQS will follow that up, and then there will be 6 more cars coming up on the EQ line globally. Now, the EQS is again part of Mercedes-Benz's Ambition 2039 initiative, where Mercedes-Benz clearly stated by 2039 they want to be a carbon neutral company. So the manufacturing of the EQS also, it's used a lot of renewable sources of energy to build the car. In fact, its factory in Germany, they've got a solar farm which is built on top of on the roof of the factory, and that provides almost 25% of the power to build the EQS. In addition, there's a significant amount of materials on the EQS itself which are renewable. Now, there are a few big highlights about the EQS that we should definitely talk about. One, of course, is that WLTP, that's the World Global Standard Fuel Efficiency Emissions norms. Those cycles have put the EQS at about a driving range of 770 kilometers, which is huge. That's absolutely enormous. And another interesting part over here is that this uses the 200 kilowatt hour charging setup. So you can get up to a 300 kilometer range in just about 15 minutes. A full charge takes about 31 minutes on the fast charging system, but you can get a range of about 300 kilometers in just 15 minutes. So as you see, again, the technology that's been used in the EQS's batteries is state of the art. It's the current generation. So the batteries are far denser. They're able to hold more charge than any other car for that matter. So it makes it far better in terms of providing the range. So the range anxiety will definitely be lesser. But this sort of infrastructure is going to take some time coming down to a country like India. European cycle, in European conditions, and in, of course, North America, you will have some of these charging stations available, and that infrastructure will be made available very, very quickly. But Asian markets, I don't know how long will it take to come. Now, there are 2 options available on the EQS. There is the EQS 450 Plus and the EQS 580 4MATIC. That's the all-wheel drive. So the EQS 450 Plus is the rear-wheel drive configuration. The 580 4MATIC configures also the front axles can also be driven, and you get 4-wheel drive. Max powertrain outputs, you get about 330 PS of max power on the 450 Plus and about close to 530 PS on the EQS 580. Torque 568 on the 450 Plus, going all the way up to 855 Newton meters of torque on the 580 4MATIC. But here's the interesting bit: top speeds. Top speeds, they are capped, but the EQS can do a top speed of about 210 kilometers an hour. Now, this is also because of the electric vehicles. Those motors aren't very high-speeding motors. You can't do a lot of top speeds in them, but you can definitely reach some of your speed limits, your speeds much faster. 0 to 100, for instance, in the EQS 450. I'll just tell you what that is in a second. It's about 6 seconds, somewhere there about 6.2 seconds, 0 to 100 in the 450 Plus. Whereas the 580 4MATIC, it can do it in about 4.3 seconds. So that's proper supercar territory in a luxury sedan, in a luxury saloon of this sort. So that's a fairly interesting bit of information from the EQS. Now, this is on the mechanical side of things. Now, what the EQS also represents is a whole host of technology and features that are state-of-the-art that have never been seen before, like the dashboard you're seeing in the images right now. This is a single panel, one single glass panel extending from A pillar on the left side to A pillar on the right side. It's the largest that we've ever seen on a sedan or any car for that matter. That entire glass is Corning Gorilla Glass so it's extremely strong. It's also got 3 screens, right? There's one right behind the steering wheel that you can see, the center one on the infotainment panel, and one right ahead of the right side the passenger seat. Now, all these are touch screens. They do have, right? There's a host of information that's available. What's also interesting is that the EQC has got artificial intelligence on board. So it learns various things, it adapts, and then of course changes its performance and gives you a host of features, or will essentially do things for you the way you would like them to be done. The EQS also is one of the first cars that we get in the Mercedes-Benz range that also gets over-the-air updates. But here's one quirky thing. Now, in the 4-wheel drive option, the rear wheels can also be, in both the options actually, the rear wheel, it's got rear wheel or rear axle steering as well, which means the rear wheels will also turn up to about 4.5 degrees, if I'm not mistaken, on the EQ450 Plus. It's got rear wheel, it's got rear axle steering. It goes up to about 4.5 degrees in one option, but you can also opt for a second option, which will increase that turning circle by about 10.5 degrees or something. That's something there. 10 degrees. Now, here's the question I wanted to ask. This 10 degrees can be achieved with an over-the-air update that Mercedes can send directly to your car if you opt for that. What I don't understand is why that feature couldn't be offered as standard right from the word go. It'd be an interesting question to ask Mercedes-Benz at some point in the future when we have access to them to ask these queries. But I'm very keen to know why that feature was not offered as standard from the word go. Now, the EQS also holds a world record for the most aerodynamic body. It's got a coefficient of drag of 0.2, which is the 0.20, which is the lowest achieved by any car anywhere in the world. That's absolutely phenomenal and it's a production car, of course. But that low coefficient of drag essentially is very essential because you're driving an electric vehicle. Range anxiety is an issue. You want to get maximum range as much as you can out of this, and that aerodynamic body will definitely help it achieve that. So there's a ton of information actually. The EQS is now again it's built off the S class. It's very close to the S class in terms of a car, but it's got an entirely electric architecture, and there's a lot of difference between this and the S class. Though at some point in the future, I guess Mercedes-Benz will migrate entirely to cars like the EQS. That will be the flag bearer for the luxury saloons from Mercedes-Benz, and it will define what luxury car makers or the entire automotive industry will see as a benchmark for sedans, saloons, or even SUVs or any other car for the future. Technology that we are seeing on the EQS will effectively permeate down to other classes of cars, other segments of cars, and this will become what the S class used to be at one point in time, the flagship and the pioneer for future tech in the automotive industry.
But in fact, we already have a question here from Apurv. He wants to know, the EQS claims to have the lowest drag coefficient of any car in the world. Does it really enhance the range much unless you're going at autobahn speeds?
Not necessarily on autobahn speeds at all. Apurva, the drag coefficient the aerodynamics will help you almost anywhere. Even you don't have to go to autobahn speeds to help it. You're not looking at ground force. You're not looking at to put the vehicle, to keep the wheels planted on the thing. You're looking for a slippery shape, and that slippery shape will help you whether you're driving in urban areas or on the highways as well. Air resistance works everywhere for that matter. Keep that in mind. Even if you're inside a city like Bombay or Bangalore or anywhere, you've got a bit of a freeway or an open stretch to drive. You want a slipperier body that will enable you to get better efficiency, and that's essentially what those aerodynamics mean. That coefficient of drag, that 0.20 figure, essentially means that you will get better efficiency out of your car, and it does not matter what condition you're driving it, wherever you are, whether it's on the highways or you're in urban or extra urban cycles, that COD will definitely help you.
All right, we'll just get back to our news again. While the wait continues for the Volkswagen Taigun to launch during the festive season, here's what the cabin looks like, as is visible. Basically, it will have dual tone shade of dark and light grey cabin. There's a virtual cockpit instrument cluster, 10-inch touchscreen, the typical new style 3-spoke Volkswagen steering wheel, and the slim AC vents. Features should include Volkswagen's connected tech, a single-pane sunroof, climate-controlled ventilated front seats, and in terms of safety, the Taigun will offer ESCS standard, airbags, tire pressure monitoring system, hill hold function, rear parking camera, front parking sensor, and ISOFIX child seat mounts. Prices of the Volkswagen Taigun should mirror that of the Kodiaq and range between 10 to 16 lakh rupees. While Skoda is gearing up to launch the 2021 model of the Kodiaq in India by July, its updates highlight a slightly revised front end, the addition of adaptive LED matrix headlights, and a slightly more technical looking rear end, apart from a switch to the Skoda twin spoke steering wheel inside and minor changes to the trim used. The Kodiaq now sports an aggressive face with a redesigned front grille and headlights. A new variant, the Kodiaq Sportline, has also been added to the mix for the first time and bridges the gap between the Laurent and Clement and the sportier Kodiaq RS variant. At the rear, the crystalline look of the LED taillights appear attractive over the redesigned rear bumper, and the new alloy wheel designs are also available, going up to 20 inches on the RS. In terms of pricing, we're expecting the Kodiaq to be priced between 34 to 38 lakh rupees ex-showroom when it goes on sale this year. Just before we head into our bike news, we have a video many of you have been waiting for. Unfortunately, it's not the review of the Trident that Rohit just spoke about, but he was brave enough to fly to Dehradun and get your first ride story. That will be up on Monday. And mind you, we did not have a camera person because just a day before Rohit was supposed to fly, the cameraman tested positive. So it's just Rohit and Anis, our photographer, who managed this entire story. So do check it out on Monday. So keep those questions ready, and in a few minutes we'll be live to answer them for you. Let's just take a look at the walk around.
This is the Trident 660. This is the newest launch from Triumph Motorcycles in India, and this also happens to be the most economical Triumph that you can buy at the moment. It's priced at about 6.95 lakh rupees. That is 1 lakh cheaper than the Street Twin, which up until now was the most economical Triumph you could buy. So this engine is derived from the Daytona 675. It puts out about 81 PS of power and 64 Newton meters of torque. And the whole draw of this motorcycle is that sound, is that triple character. And the engine was tuned in a way that it can achieve all the advantages of a parallel twin in the low down performance, and the advantages of a triple in the top end performance. Now it has these exposed header pipes, and the exhaust canister sits under the belly, and because the canister sits here, they have sort of had a galam kind of a design for the swing arm. And interestingly, if you look at the other side, it's the conventional straight arm that you see on the other side. So the pretty angle, of course, is this side of the motorcycle, because you can see that galam design. It follows the same angle as a tubular chassis. It's a steel tubular chassis, and then you can also see the exhaust pipe and those header pipes. There are 4 colors available. What you see here is the matte black. There's also a white, there's a grey with a red accent, and then there is the regular grey, if I'm not wrong. So the chassis, like I said, is a steel tubular frame, and it's suspended by these Showa upside down forks, and at the rear is a monoshock, and it's also got a preload adjust there. In terms of the wheel choices, these are 17-inch rims, front and back. The front is a 120 section tire, whereas the rear is a 180. So it carries over the tire sizes and the profiles of the Daytona. And what this bike comes with is Michelin Pilot Road 5 tires. Now, we've been impressed with these tires in the past, so I'm expecting some good handling, some nice grippy handling from this motorcycle. In terms of the design, I already showed you that the tank, it looks nice and beefy from the side, but if you look at it from the top, it's nice and narrow here. So between your legs, it's going to not feel as bulky, and that is going to make it friendly even for newer riders who are probably going to get this as their first big bike. But when you look at the frontal section of the tank, it is nice and big. So I don't think it's going to rob you of that big bike feel, but that is again something that I'll comment on once I ride the motorcycle for a sizable amount of kilometers. So they also have these plastic panels here with the Trident logo inscribed in it. looks quite nice. These also offer good grip. Unfortunately, these have been polished off right now for the display bike, but they aim to offer good grip under braking while cornering. So these knee recesses are nicely done is what I think. I also like the placement of this Triumph logo. It's loud, but at the same time not gaudy in any sense. On all the colors it looks quite nice. In terms of the braking hardware, it gets the sliding type calipers at the front and back from Nissan, and this is not top drawer equipment because this motorcycle at the end of the day is built at a cost. Now in terms of the lighting, you can see up front you get a round lamp. It's nicely split into two, horizontally split. It's an LED headlamp. So you see a matching design here for the instrumentation. It's also got a round design, and it is also horizontally split, though not equally split, but you can see the horizontal split in here. This pointy tail and the tail light, it sort of reminds you of the Street Triple or the older Daytona. But what I really like is how they have put the Triumph logo right in between. They've embedded it into the tail light. I think it looks quite nice. Looks a bit sophisticated. So it's really good looking stuff here. I also like the design of the tail hugger. Not everyone loves this kind of a design. Let me know what you think. I particularly like it. I think it looks quite nice. Gets reflectors on both the sides and also has these LED turn blinkers. Now this is a 6-speed gearbox that it's made it to. That's what you have in the frame right now, but you can also opt for a quick shifter. Even for the seat, it's nice and narrow. You can see the design here. You can see it's nice and narrow. It's sort of chamfered off at both the edges, so that should make it very easy and accessible to most Indian riders. So yeah, this is what the motorcycle is all about. Like I said right at the beginning, it's priced at 6.95 lakh ex showroom. It's a little under 9 lakh rupees on road, and this is the entry level from Triumph.
Well, so that was the Trident. If you have any questions about the Trident, use the comment section on whichever platform you're watching this video on, and send us those questions. Like I said, there's going to be an embargo till Monday, so I can't really tell you if it's a great bike to ride or not. But if there's anything that we can discuss about the design or maybe about the specs, hopefully I should be able to answer a few questions without giving out much about the riding impressions of it. But moving on to the motorcycle news, I'm going to stick to Triumph right now because just about the same time when we were riding this motorcycle, the news about the updated Scrambler range came out. The XE and the XC in their updated 2021 avatar have been sort of revealed. When it comes to India, if at all it comes to India or not, is something that we have still not been told about because there was a word that the Thruxton may not make a comeback. The Scramblers may not make a comeback because they've not been received too well in the Indian market. They've not given Triumph India the kind of numbers that they hope for. But what you see here is the updated model. It gets the Euro 5 engine or a BS6 engine for that matter. So the power and torque remains the same. It's a 90 PS output, 110 Newton meters. What's really changed is the emissions, of course. I'm also expecting a slight bit of change to the sound profile. It's a grunty sound that you get. And I'm expecting a slight bit of change there. But what you see on the screen right now, this green color motorcycle, is the Steve McQueen edition. And that is certainly coming to India. In fact, whatever dealerships are open right now in the middle of all the ongoing lockdowns in various states, they are taking bookings. Even in Maharashtra, the Bombay and Pune dealerships are taking online bookings for it. And only 6 units out of the 1,000 Steve McQueen editions that have been planned are going to make it to the Indian market. So if you are a fan of the Star or you want a Scrambler in this bespoke paint scheme and that different seat, this is the motorcycle to get if you really like it. And you should be able to book it with your closest Triumph dealership very soon. Like I said, only 6 units are up for grabs. Moving on, Ducati has opened the pre-bookings for their 2 new V4s that are coming out. So what you have on the screen is, of course, the Multistrada V4. We already know of the Multistrada 950S, which we reviewed recently on Overdrive. There's also the 1260, and that 1260 will now be replaced by this V4 as the flagship adventure tourer or the sport tourer for the brand. It's got the massive 4-cylinder, the V4 engine now. That L-twin is gone. You get a 4-cylinder motor. It puts out about 170 PS of power. The engine is derived from the Panigale, of course, and that speed, that power is obviously been the Multistrada's strong points, and it's going to get even better with this one. It also gets radar guided technologies. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to come to India. We've seen a lot of these technologies in the car world as well, but luxury car makers haven't really got them to the country. One is the cost factor. The second is, of course, the restrictions on using radar tech, and whether it can really make sense in India or not. So we are still not sure, but the bookings for that bike have been open. What you see also on the screen is the naked version of the Panigale, so to say. This is the Street Fighter V4, looks stunning. And if you fancy a naked motorcycle that can do speeds of 270, 280, or maybe even 300 kilometers an hour, and if you can really survive that wind blast, and if you simply fancy a naked motorcycle that has over 200 PS of power to boast about, and something that I think in my books looks better than something like the Kawasaki ZH2, I think the Street Fighter V4 could make a lot of sense. Even that bike is coming to India, and the bookings for that have been opened as well. So the pre-bookings for either of these motorcycles are 2 lakh rupees, completely refundable. So you can get in touch with your closest Ducati dealer if you want either of these. The Street Fighter, I'm expecting a price tag of about 23 to 25 lakh rupees, or maybe slightly higher than that. There'll be the Street Fighter V4 and the Street Fighter V4S, which is slightly lighter, has got the electronic suspension and all that jazz. You also have the Multistrada, which will also be available in the V4 and the V4S, guys. And that, again, I'm looking at a similar price bracket, maybe even crossing the 28, 29 lakh rupee bracket, so to say. Around the same time, we'll also have the new BMW R1250 GS coming out. So we're looking at about June, July as the time period for all these 3 motorcycles to come out, the 2 Ducatis and the updated BMW as well. And this BMW R1250 GS and the Multistrada V4, they are going to be, of course, the flagship models from either brands, and they are essentially going to go head to head. Now, whether or not we get to ride it, we don't know yet. So fingers crossed. But like I said, if you're looking to buy either of these motorcycles, you can head over to their respective dealerships, and you should be able to book either one of them already. Back to you, producer.
All right, we'll get back to our questions then. But here's one from Dr. Shadan Azhar. He wants to know that the reason why Volkswagen uses CEAT models to test in India, but they don't launch CEAT here. Indian market is mostly filled with looks and design like Maruti and Hyundai. But you're on mute.
Dr. Azhar, well, Volkswagen already has to contend with Skoda and fight in a similar price bracket. And now you want a third in-house brand coming and taking even more market share away from them. I don't think they'd be very happy about it. But globally, CEAT is also positioned as a slightly more affordable product than, or rather affordable brand than Volkswagen. Though I don't know what the positioning would be if they ever had to get it down to India. Now, they do test all these cars in India, not just Volkswagen. Almost every manufacturer comes to India to test their vehicles, whether it's Audi, BMW, Mercedes. Several of them come down to India because of our climatic conditions, because of the changes in topography, because of the various conditions that we live in. A lot of manufacturers are testing and evaluating the cars in Indian conditions, also to do fuel efficiency tests and quality of fuel tests. And there are so many other things that they evaluate and test here in India. But that doesn't mean all of those products they're testing over here also come down or also offered in the Indian market. Now, having said that, like I said earlier, CEAT really doesn't make a lot of sense for India. Some of them are good cars. This could be a decision sometime in the future, but at this point in time, CEAT is just looked at largely as a European brand, that too Southern Europe for that matter, not so much anywhere else around the world. At some point in the future, they may consider it, but with Skoda and Volkswagen already here, as a group decision, I don't think it will make a lot of sense.
All right. But here's a follow-up question from Sunil Prasad. He's saying that should he get a full-size SUVs mentioned before? I think he was talking about the Fortuner, Gloucester and the Endeavour. Or should he stretch his budget substantially and get a E220D exclusive, as he doesn't have problems stretching his budget for a luxury brand?
Well, the E220D definitely is a fantastic product. No denying that. It's one of Mercedes-Benz's best-selling sedans. Their bread and butter sedan in India, for that matter. It's one of the highest-selling cars that they've got over here. It is a phenomenal product. Great in terms of comfort, luxury, the kind of features it has as well. Something that you would really love to either drive or be driven in. Having said that, it's not. It's no comparison. It's no replacement for an SUV. And things that an SUV will be able to offer you, you will not get the same levels of, how would I say it, capability in a sedan. So while you will get the kind of comfort and luxury you would want in an E-Class, going up or rather using a SUV will have a lot more practicality. There's a lot more on offer in an SUV. So choose as per that. It's not a bad car at all. Like I said, it's a phenomenal choice. It's a phenomenal car. It's a great choice, but it's a sedan at the end of the day, and there are certain limitations on what you can do with that sedan.
All right, here's a question from Dr. Dinesh. He wants to know whether the Kia Sonet diesel automatic torque converter maintenance in the long run is an issue. Is it the right choice in the Kia Sonet range?
Well, yes, the torque converter is a good choice in the Kia Sonet range. There is absolutely no problems with that. How's the maintenance going to be? It's going to be like any other torque converter transmission system anywhere in the world for that matter. There is going to be some amount of maintenance, but you count a very, very long time. Probably almost a decade in some cases. So I don't really foresee any issues unless there is a problem with that transmission. Then and only then, if it is not covered in the warranty, then you would have a problem because yes, torque converter transmissions, like any other transmission, also is a very expensive transmission box to service or repair. But otherwise, there are no maintenance concerns as such. It's not more expensive to maintain anything as such over any other transmission, any other automatic transmission. Is it the right choice in the Kia Sonet range? Yes, it's a good choice in the Kia Sonet range. The DCT also is a good choice, but even the torque converter works very well.
All right, Electron Vlogs has been sending us a lot of questions. He's saying that he's
one question several times, not a lot of questions.
The same question. He wants to know whether he should buy a used i10. Which engine variant should he go for, the IRD or the Kappa?
Electron Blogs, the Kappa is the engine you should go in for because it's the more advanced engine over here. Slightly better engine as well, more efficient and refined, and that's the choice you should go in for. I'm having a doubt. I'm planning to buy a used i10. Well, the i10, yes, you can buy a used i10. They're pretty good cars also for that matter. Great practicality, good on efficiency, and quite nice, small, compact runarounds. If you're looking for an affordable budget car, that's a good choice. Going for a used one, you shouldn't have any problems.
All right, we've been bombarded so many times by Electron. I'm just trying to find some other questions, and I'm finding it a little difficult to find some others.
Okay, Electron Vlog, you need to stop doing this. Oh, you're just kind of spamming us now. I think we've answered 2 of your queries, but sending us the options, sending us questions repeatedly is not going to help your cause.
All right, we'll take one more of his, but here's he wants to know the full option model of the i20 or the Venue or the Sonet.
Full option model of the i20 or Venue or Sonet. Full option model on the i20. I think it's got one of the longest list of features and the most contemporary list of features amongst all these three.
All right. Nitin wants to know, Bert, when can we expect a sub 5 lakh rupees EV? One such EV is the best seller in China.
Well, we will expect this will come up in some time. Keep in mind, the biggest challenge most manufacturers are facing right now is that of infrastructure, battery availability, and of course having vehicles having the battery that can hold a lot more density and therefore a lot more charge. But a sub 5 lakh rupee EV will come about in the future. That is a given. If you look at it, the E2O, for instance, is it's a sub 5 lakhs in a sense kind of EV. But yeah, as more and more EVs proliferate and penetrate the market, we will definitely see the cost coming down as scale increases. But I think this will take us at least another 5 to 7 years to see some amount of impact in this sub 5 lakh rupee bracket.
All right, we'll take our final question for the day. Once from Aniket. Any possibility of the Honda Civic coming back to India, or the 2022 Civic prototype looks much better than the 10th generation Civic?
Well, I'm not entirely sure that will come down again. Rohit, I don't know. I don't believe that will come down to India ever again. I'm not sure they're going to bring the Civic simply because the market has fallen out of sedans. The bottom has just dropped out of sedans. And no one's really looking at sedans as aggressively any longer. So for most of the manufacturers today in India, SUVs are going to be the flavor for the next 2 to 3 years. It's going to be extremely tough to get sedans back into form and to get them breaking records at the box office. So I doubt Honda will get the Civic back into India.
All right, one more last question. Anand wants to know the Cayenne Turbo S versus the BMW X6M, which is better in terms of comfort and performance?
Which is better in terms of comfort and performance. The Cayenne Turbo is phenomenal. Is great in terms of both comfort and performance. I don't recollect driving the X6M, but I drove the Cayenne Turbo, and it was just a brilliant product all over. It looks much nicer also than the previous generation Cayennes. It's got a great set of features inside. Fantastic dashboard layout. Very upmarket. The quality inside the cabin is really, really upmarket. And the performance is nothing short of astounding. To see a car that large move as quickly as it does, and with that much agility, precision, stability, it's a phenomenal SUV. I don't think you can compare it to the X6M. It will just leave the X6M in the dust.
All right, Bert, I think it's time that we announce the winners for this week's show.
All right, guys, today we've got just one winner. I'm only going to nominate one winner for the free digital and the annual subscription to the digital issue of Overdrive, and that is Surjashish Mukherjee, who asked the question, what do you think the next design feature in cars would be like? That we had the headlights fall to the bumpers and TFT screens growing in size. The Tata Safari concept was also interesting, but I think that was one of the better questions that came out today. And I'd definitely like to see quality of questions improving and more people coming up with a few more queries. There have been today, again, Electron blogs. Bro, you really spammed us. You've got a long list of queries, but amidst all of your repetitions, I can't see much. So we will try to take your queries nonetheless in the future also if you ever have them, but please refrain from doing what you're doing. Yeah, I guess that's about it. That's only one winner I'm going to announce for this week's show. But we will get you, I'm sure a lot more of you will come in on the next week digital show, and we'll have some more interesting queries for us. Also, guys, just want to tell you, tonight I'll be coming on to Instagram live at 10 p.m. and we're going to be talking with Harshman Rai and Veer Dakai, who've just come out with a complete new web series that's on MX Player. And just want to pick their brains. So both me and Anish Sheikh will be there on that live on Instagram. We will have a 1 hour conversation, a very free talking, freewheeling spin on what they've done and how their ride through Arunachal was like. I kind of just missed out on a drive through Arunachal. I was supposed to leave today actually for Arunachal for the Arunachal Tourism and Mahindra drive that's taking place over there. But given the COVID situation, the company, effectively Overdrive, Network 18 has restricted us from moving around. It's the safest thing to do, and I urge all of you as well, stay at home, mask up, sanitize, keep your distance, avoid travel if you can, work from home as far as possible. For the next couple of weeks, we're going to be working out from home, and it's going to be a little hard getting you some of the stories that we'd like to get, but we're going to make our attempt. We're going to make an attempt. As soon as restrictions are lifted off, at least eased off, to get you some content that's interesting, that's practical, that will enhance value to you as well. But do bear with us in the meantime. And of course, yeah, the latest issue of Overdrive is also going to be out on stands very, very soon. All those of you who haven't subscribed to it, do subscribe to it already, either for the physical copy or to the digital copy. The winners over the last few weeks, those who haven't got the issue, there were a couple of comments over here about some of them who hadn't received their issue. But that's also because we was going to send you your subscription will start from the April 2021 issue, which will come to you in a couple of days. You will have the emails coming up towards you. In case you don't, please feel free to drop me an email, bertrand@overdrive.co.in. You can also email Rohit, Paradkar, Rohit@overdrive.co.in, and we'll help you out with those. We make sure that those of you who have won a subscription will receive that ASAP. So just give us a couple of days more, and I think you'll have that issue with you nonetheless. Indrapreet Wadhwa, in the meantime, any updates on EV cars and EV policy? Indrapreet, nothing at this point in time. Again, let's keep in mind that a lot of manufacturers are now again back to getting out IC engined cars in the market, and some of the EV plans went on the back burner, but there will be some plans, some new products coming out in the market in the very near future. We look forward to that. Same thing with EV policy as well. Nothing no new developments from whatever is there in Singh. Right now, what we are only waiting for is the efficiency norms, the fuel efficiency norms, standardization of that. Apart from that, there's nothing else that we are expecting that's new and innovative.
All right. I think with that, we need to wrap up this week's show. Just another reminder. So, Ashish, congratulations. But do send us an email on digitalshow@overdrive.co.in so that we can share your information with the customer care team in the backend, and we can start your subscription. Guys, before we sign out today, just take a look at what we have on the show, on the TV show tomorrow. We'll be getting you a detailed review of the facelifted S5 Sportback. And we'll also bring you a detailed comparison test between the Honda CB350 RS and the Java 42 2.1. The show will play tomorrow at 1 p.m. and Sunday 12:30 and 8 p.m. on CNBC TV 18. Remember, it also will stream live on CNBC TV 18 live TV. So we'll see you next week. Please be safe. And
Bye guys, stay safe over the weekend. Don't go out partying like we did sometime back in Goa with various manufacturers. But yeah, stay safe. It's the weekend, and let's not. The situation is pretty dire out there. So, like I said, once again, mask up, sanitize, maintain your distance, and hopefully we'll see you back again next week on the digital show. Take care.